Applying chain of custody to the codices yields some astonishing results. The Codex Sinaiticus, for example, was discovered only in the 19th century. Currently, parts of the Codex Sinaiticus are preserved in 4 different institutions: the British Library, the Library of the University of Leipzig, the National Library of Russia, and the Holy Monastery of the God-trodden Mount Sinai, otherwise known as St. Catherine's. These 4 institutions formally collaborate as the Codex Sinaiticus Project. The Codex Sinaiticus Project has reconstructed the recent history of the Codex. It openly recognizes that the chronology of the manuscript is fraught with mystery, and that it cannot be fully documented. The project claims that the first reference to the Codex comes from a journal by an Italian visitor to the monastery, Vitaliano Donati. But this is a dubious reference, as the project readily admits. It may or may not be the Codex. For the purposes of authentication, this evidence would not be acceptable. Over 80 years later, the Codex reappears, or more likely, appears for the first time in recorded history. It is at this time that the renowned German biblical scholar and philologist Konstantin Tischendorf claimed to have found 129 leaves of the Codex. He obtained 43 of these leaves and published them in 1846. The facsimile became part of the Leipzig University Library. There are 2 troubling aspects to this claim. First, the story of his finding the partial codex is found only in Tischendorf's own published account. As the Codex Sinaiticus project correctly points out, there is no other document that corroborates Tischendorf's claim. Second, there is a monetary aspect to the story. Tischendorf found and published the partial manuscript in honor of King Frederick, who financially supported both Tischendorf's travels and the publishing as well. At this point, the story gets very complex. Tischendorf returns to St. Catherine's for the 3rd time in 1859 and discovers 347 more leaves of the Codex. Again, the story of the discovery and how he obtained it is found only in Tischendorf's personal account. It cannot be verified by other sources. Only when the Codex makes its way to Russia and is published in 1862 is the chronology of the Codex firmly documented. The statement that the essentials are now clearly documented is an admission by the Codex Sinaiticus project that the story of the discovery, obtaining, and custody of the manuscript was not clearly documented until 1862. We have only the word of Tischendorf to rely on. From a chain of custody perspective, the verifiable chronology of the Codex includes 2 dates, the 1846 and the 1862 facsimile editions. Additional portions of the Codex were found in the monastery in 1975. Unless there is other compelling and verifiable evidence to the contrary, this would make the Codex a modern document. There are persistent and compelling claims that the Codex Sinaiticus is a forged document. The most famous claim of forgery was made by Constantine Simonides in 1862 when the second facsimile edition was published. Simonides claimed in the British daily newspaper The Guardian that he had written the Codex himself in 1839 at the St. Panteleimon Monastery in Athos, Greece. Whether true or not, the claim is at least plausible. Simonides was an extremely talented paleographer, with an extensive knowledge of manuscripts and calligraphy. He was considered by some to be the greatest forger of his time. Simonides' claim was publicly contested by Henry Bradshaw and others. Bradshaw was a bibliographer and is considered the founder of modern bibliographical analysis. For the present, the mainstream academic world, including the Codex Sinaiticus project, accepts the authenticity of the manuscript and rejects the claim of Simonides. Still, doubts about the Codex persist to this day. Whether or not Simonides' claim is valid, the possibility still exists that the Codex is a forgery. To dismiss Simonides does not dismiss the possibility of forgery. In his rebuttal to Simonides, Bradshaw threw down a challenge to the renowned forger. Come see the manuscript for yourself. Simonides declined the offer. However, NIKOLAI Alexandrovich Morozov, a self-taught scientist and honorary member of the Soviet Academy of Sciences, did take the time to personally examine the Codex. His comments on the condition of the document are revealing. Certainly, it should be expected that with 1,000 years of handling by monks and other readers, the pages would have become smudged and even oily from the fingers of those that handled them. But the sheets of parchment Morozov inspected at the beginning of the 20th century showed no signs of extended use. Morozov also noticed that the parchment sheets themselves appeared to be strikingly well preserved. This detail is quite damning for those who claim its authenticity and its proposed dating during the 4th century AD. Morozov himself explained the problem. The excellent condition of the Codex is further curious since Tischendorf claimed he had found the Codex in a wastebasket, apparently discarded by the monks of St. Catherine's.